हे एवरीवन, कैसे आप सभी लोग। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करने वाले हैं लूप स्टेटमेंट के बारे में। लूप स्टेटमेंट आल्सो कॉल्ड एज अ इटरेटिव स्टेटमेंट। आज के वीडियो में हम कवर करेंगे व्हाट इज लूप स्टेटमेंट, व्हाई वी नीड देम, एंड देन विल टॉक अबाउट डिफरेंट लूप स्टेटमेंट इन जावास्क्रिप्ट. We'll talk about its syntax and how the code inside this loop statement get executed. So we'll start our video with a simple question: what is loop statement and why we need them? Let's consider a simple example, like if you want to print a string onto the console, like simple hello world. Okay, now if I run this, now we got hello world as an output. But what if I just want to print this string multiple times, like 10 or 100 times? Then I will just copy paste this code 100 times. Okay, so this will just increase the complexity in our program. Also, we have same task and we just repeat this task multiple times. Okay, by just copy pasting it, it will make our code redundant. Okay, redundancy means we increase the duplicacy of our program. So instead of this, we can use loop statement. Loop statement in JavaScript is nothing but the coding statement used to perform same task multiple times. That means we can execute our task number of times. Okay, like in JavaScript, we have different loop statement. The first one we have for loop, second one we have while loop, then we have do while, and then we have for in, and the last one we have for op loop. ओके, अगर तुमने पहले सी प्लस प्लस और जावा में कोडिंग की होगी तो तुम्हें फॉर वाइल डू वाइल लूप के बारे में पता होगा. द सिंटैक्स फॉर क्रिएटिंग दिस लूप इज सेम इन जावास्क्रिप्ट एज इन अदर प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस. There is no difference how the code inside this loop will get executed. Also in JavaScript we have two more loops, which is for in and for op loop, which is just advanced version of the for loop and also most simplest version, which is used to iterate over object and arrays. We'll look all these loops one by one. So we'll start with the for loop. So to create a for loop, we have to use keyword for, then we are opening and closing curly braces. Inside these braces, we have three different expressions separated with a semicolon. So let's call it as a expression 1, semicolon expression 2, and we have expression 3. Okay, I will talk about what are these expressions means. First, let's talk about all the syntax for creating the for loop. And then we have opening and closing curly braces, and inside this we write our code that we want to repeat. Okay, and the section from till from the opening bracket and the closing curly braces called as a body of the loop. Okay, so this is the basic syntax for creating a for loop, and the expression 1 is a stage where we initialize our variable. Okay, like we create a variable, let's I equal to 0, like j equal to 1. Okay, and then we have expression 2 where we write a condition, and this condition must be evaluate a true or false value, mainly boolean value. Like we have 1 less than 10, 10 greater than 1, and if you have multiple condition, you can combine with the logical and logical or operator. And if this condition is true, then the code inside this body will get executed. If this condition gets false, then execution of this for loop will get terminated. Okay, and last one we have expression 3, and here we just increment or decrement the values that are defined inside this expression. Okay, like we do I plus plus, where we just increment the value of I by 1, or we can also do I minus minus to decrease the value of I by 1, or we can also do I equal to I plus 2 to increase the value of I by 2. Okay, so and in JavaScript or in any other programming languages, when you create a for loop, all these expressions are optional expressions. What I mean by optional, I will take another example and explain to you. First of all, let's create a simple example and let's print the value from 1 to 5. Okay, this is it. So we'll create a for loop for this. Okay, for, and inside this I will create a simple variable that will goes from 1 to 5. So we have variable I, and then you have semicolon, and I will write a condition is I less than 5. So interpreter will repeat or execute this for loop until this I value is less than or equal to 5. Okay, and then we just increment the value by 1. So we'll have to increase the value to 2, 3, 4, 5, like this. Okay, and then we have opening and closing curly braces, and inside this I will write log I, just printing the value of I to the console. Okay, and when program counter start executing the code, it will jump into expression 1. So I'll write it here as expression 1. Okay, interpreter will start from executing from expression 1, where we just initialize this variable. So expression 1 will be execute only one time. Okay, and other expression will be execute repeatedly. Okay, I will explain to you how this actually going to execute. Then we have expression 2. When the expression 1 gets executed, uh, interpreter will start executing the expression 2, where we check the condition. Like in this case we have variable I, so I'll create a memory and we'll store a variable I inside this memory, like this. And then we'll check the condition is 1 less than 5. Okay, value of I is 1, so we'll have to check condition as 1 less than equal to 5 or not. Now this condition is true, so the code inside this body of the loop will get executed. Like here we have body of the loop, and this condition must be evaluated true value, so to execute the code inside this body. And when this code like here inside this body of the loop is just we printing the value of I, which is 1, so I'll write output as a 1. And then when this execution done inside this body of the loop, it will jumps to expression 3. Okay, so when we have to go from body of the loop to expression 3, and now in this case we just increment in the values. Okay, we just increment the value of I by 1, so our 1 becomes 2. And when this done, it will again goes to expression 2, check the condition. Again we check the condition is 2 less than 5 or not. Now 2 is less than 5, so again condition is true, so again we execute the body of the loop and we'll print the value of 2 inside this body. So again we jumps to expression 3 and increment the value, so we'll got 3. And we again check the condition is 3 less than equal to 5 or not. So again condition is true, so again we print the value of I to the console, and we again increment the value at the expression 3. So we got the value of I as a 4, and we again check the condition is 4 less than 5. Okay, so the condition is true, so again we just print the values, and again we goes to expression 3 and increment the value by 1, and now our 4 becomes 5. Well, I will remove this. Okay, so now we'll check the condition is 5 less than equal to 5 or not. So condition is true. 5 is less than 5 is not true, but 5 equal to 5 is true. So the code inside the body will get execute and will got the output as a 5. Okay, and then we again goes to expression 3 and increment the value of I by 1. Our I value is becomes 6, and again we check the condition is 6 less than 5 or not. Now in this case we got the false condition because 6 is not greater than 5. So the execution of this for loop will get terminated. Okay, and program counter directly jumps out of this whole for loop and execute the remaining line of code after the for loop. This is how this for loop execute or repeat the task. Okay, so we'll run this code inside the code editor or in a browser. So here inside the VS Code editor, I will create a for loop. Then we have let I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus, and I will just log I. Now if I run this, now we got the values from 1 to 5. Okay, and if I just want to print the last value of I will write a string last value I. Okay, now if I run this, okay, now here when we create a variable inside the for loop, it will become local to the for loop, and to access it from outside of the for loop we have to declare as a global variable. So I'll create a global variable as I, and then I will run the program. Okay, so now we'll got the last value of I as a 6. Okay, so it will become the termination condition to exit from this for loop. Now if I can repeat the hello world string uh, now if I just want to repeat this hello world, I will repeat that like 10 times. So we'll got desired output at a 10 time. Now if I want to repeat it 100 times, I will do that. Okay, so this is how you execute the for loop. Or you can also execute the for loop in a reverse order. Like if I just want to grow from 100 to 0, so I'll initialize the value of I as 100, and then we have to reverse the condition because we have to go from 100 to 0. So we'll write 100 and we are greater than or equal to 0, and here instead of I plus plus, I will write I minus minus. If I run this, now we got the descending or values from 100 to 0, like 100, 99, 98, 97, like this. Okay, and if I just want to print the all the even numbers from 100 to 0, what we can do, we can just compare, just use if statement, and we'll do I mod 2 equal to 0. So what this statement do, this statement just dividing the value of I by 2, and if I got the remainder 0, then we can say it's a even number. Okay, like even number can be divided by 2. So if I run this, now we got all the even numbers from 100 to 0 or 0 to 100. Okay, if we just reverse this from here with 0 to 100, then it will be increasing order 100, 98, 96, 94. And if we want to get all odd numbers, we'll reverse this condition I mod 2, so we'll got all odd numbers. Okay, and we'll talk about how you can access the array element using the for loop. So we have an array 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll take a for loop. Okay? And we know that to access the element inside the for loop, how we can do that, we can do that using square brackets. Like we have array and we have square bracket. Now if I write a index here, so we'll get the fourth element of the array, which is 5. If I want to get the first element, I will write 0. Okay, and now with the for loop we can do that. Like we'll initialize the value of I as a 0, and then we'll go our I from 0 to our array length, and then we'll do I plus plus, and inside this we have console log, and we'll just print array then square bracket, and we'll pass our index. Okay, we go from 0 to array length. Now we got all the values inside the arrays. You can now take the sum of the values, like we have created a variable sum is initialized to 0, and here I will write sum equal to plus array of I and console log. Okay, now if I run this, we got 20 because 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, we got 20 as an output. Okay, so this is how you can take the sum of the element, or we can also reverse the element inside this array using for loop. Like here, I will initialize the variable I to array dot length minus 1. Okay, because our last element is present at array length minus 1. Okay, and then we have goes from till 0, I minus minus, like this. Now if I just log the array of y values, we got all the reverse, we got the reverse array 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, if I just remove this sixth line, we got a reverse array. Okay, so I understand the for loop, and I already told that in JavaScript all these expression are optional. Like if I just avoid this expression, JavaScript will not throw any error. Like here, I will create a variable array length minus 1. Now, if I run this, we got the same output. We can also do that with I minus minus, but this loop will run infinite time. If I didn't write I minus minus, but we can do inside this body of the loop like this. Now we also got the same output. And now we'll talk about what is infinite loop. If I just avoid I minus minus here, okay, this is also one of the method to create infinite loop. If I just run this program, the loop will never get terminated because our value of I is not getting 0. Okay, so and this value is 6, so 6 always greater than 0. So this loop will never gets terminated. Okay, so we have to write I minus minus to terminate the loop. And if I just didn't write the condition also, this loop will run infinite time. So I'll not run this code because it will crash the browser. Okay, so I hope you understand. You can try to run this loop in your browser. Okay, now we'll talk about another and second loop, which is while loop. It is also more simple loop. So to create a for loop, we have keyword while, okay? And then you have braces, and inside these braces we write a condition, and then we have opening and closing curly braces, and inside this we have code that we want to run. Again, the section from this opening to closing called as a body of the loop. Okay, so this is the basic syntax for creating a while loop. Or if you want to just some example, if you want to just do initialization or increment, so in while loop you just have to do initialization at the beginning of this while loop or before the while loop. Then you have while loop, and if you want to do increment or decrement, then you can do inside this opening and closing curly braces like this, increment or decrement. Okay, so this will become the full syntax for creating while loop. So we'll just print the values of uh, from 1 to 5. Again, to explain to you, how to go from 1 to 5. So we'll create a variable that will store the values called as I equal to 1. Okay, then we have while loop, and here we again check the condition, and then we have just log the value of I and increment the value of I by 1. Okay, so how this code get execute? First of all, it will start from this line, which is a global variable. So we'll create this variable in a memory I equal to 1. Then interpreter will start executing the while loop. First of all, it will check the condition, is I less than equal to 5 or not. So 1 is less than 5, so the code inside this body will get executed. Okay, like we have initialization expression 1, then we have condition, and here we have body of the loop, and here we have increment or decrement or the expression 3. Okay, so when this condition is true, the body inside this loop will get executed. But this increment or decrement also the part of the body of the loop of the while loop, so this will also get execute. And when this gets executed, again it will go to check the condition, and here we got the value, comparison with the value again. So we'll check the value. So our I is incremented by 1, which is now become 2. So we'll compare 2 is less than 5, so again condition is true, so body of the loop will get execute. So again we'll print the value of a 2 as 3 onto the console, and we'll increment it. Okay, so it will becomes 3. Okay, and we also gonna print it inside this log statement, and again we increment the value of I, that will become 4. And again we check the condition, is 4 less than 5, so condition is true, so we'll print it on console and increase the value of I to 5. Is 5 is less than 5, is this condition now is true because 5 is equal to 5. So again print it, and again we increment the value of I by 1, now becomes 6. And now here we check the condition, is 6 less than equal to 5 or not. Now this condition is false, so we terminate the loop. Okay, like when this condition is false. Okay, so this is simple for loop. So we'll run this code inside the browser. We'll create a variable, let I equal to 1 while loop, and we have check is I less than 5, log I plus. Now if I run this, we got 1 2 3 4 5 as an output. We can also print the last value of I, which is got 6. Okay, the same as a for loop. Now you can reverse this loop, like I will just change the values 5 I minus minus. Okay, and if I run this, got infinite values. ओके। तो एक्चुअली मैंने यहाँ पे एक गलती कर दी थी, तो इसकी वजह से मेरा ब्राउज़र क्रैश हो चुका था। बिकॉज़ वी रन द लूप इनफाइनाइट टाइम, because we have value of I as a 5, and we'll check is 5 less than equal to 5 or not. And if I just run this, we got value of I as a negative values, okay, like 4 3 2 1, and these values are always less than 5, so this will run infinite time. So instead of this I will write greater than or equal to 0. Now if I run this, we got the values 5 4 3 2 1 0. Okay. This is how you run infinite loop, or you can also make this condition as a true. Okay. And in while loop you cannot keep this condition as a blank. You just have to put the condition or JavaScript will throw an error. Okay. So now we'll talk about the next loop, which is a do while loop. So we'll talk about its syntax first. And the syntax for creating a do while loop is a different from other that we already saw for loop and while loop. So to create a do while loop, we have keyword do, then opening and closing curly braces, and inside this opening and closing curly braces we have our code that we want to repeat. And then after this closing curly braces, we have while keyword, and again we have braces, and inside this we have our condition. Okay. This is the only difference between for loop and while loop. Like in for loop and while loop, we'll write our condition at the beginning of the loop, and here inside the do while loop we check the condition at the end of the loop. So that causes one benefit, that the body of the loop first will get execute. So we have a loop like this. It will execute the body of the loop, and then we'll check the condition. Okay. And now if this condition is true, then again body of the loop will get execute, and again we check the condition. But in other loop what is going to happen is condition is checked first, and then run the body of the loop. Okay, like this, and then again we check the condition. So the code inside the body of the while loop will execute the at least one time, even if the condition is false. Okay. So we'll take a simple example to the do while loop. We print the values from 1 to 5 again. We have do, and we log the values as I. We'll do I plus plus, and then we have while loop I is less than equal to 5. So how this actually going to run? We'll try run it. So again program interpreter start executing this code, and we have to declare the variable as a global. Okay. So now here we first print the value of I to the console like this, and we'll increment the value of I by 1. I'll write it here 1, and we'll now increment it by 1. So our value of I is become 2, and then we'll check the condition is 2 less than equal to 5 or not. So now this condition is true, so again we goes to the body of the loop and print the value of I, which is 2, and again increment the value of I by 1. We got 3, and again we check the condition is 3 less than 5, so condition is true. So again goes to body of the loop and print the value, and then we increment the value by 1, which is 4. And then we again goes to condition, check the condition is 4 less than 5, so condition is true. So again goes to body of the loop and print the value, and again we increment the value of I by 1 and check the values 5 less than 5, condition is true. So again goes to body and print the value and increment the value of I by 1, now becomes 6. I will check the condition is 6 less than equal to 5. This condition is false, so the execution of the loop will get terminated. Okay, so we'll got this output. And I will also talk about how this for loop get executed at least one, even if this condition is false. So let's consider. So let's remove everything. We have do while, and I will just make this condition as a false like this, and inside this I will print hello world. I already told that if this loop, the body of the loop is first get executed, and then it will check the condition. Now this condition is actually getting false. If I just do the same in a while loop or a for loop, will not see any output inside the inside this or the code inside this while loop will not run. So but in here actually body of the loop will first get executed, so actually we can see hello world one time on a screen. We'll actually going to run this program, so we'll see how this actually work. So first of all, let's move on to VS Code editor, and first of all I'll print numbers from 1 to 5. Now while, and will I is less than equal to 5. Now if I run this, you got the number from 1 to 5, and last value of I will be 6. And now we'll run the false condition. Now if I do this with the same input, like I'll just make the condition as false, 1 less than I less than 1. Now if I run this, we got one output. Okay, so we'll do with the console log hello world. Here I'll make the condition as a false. Now if I run this, we got hello world as an output. Now if I do the same with the while loop, okay, we did not see any output. Also in the VS Code editor, you can see that this line is uh, actually going in a gray color. That indicates that this line will never reach in our program. Okay, so this is the difference between for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Okay, so now we'll talk about the last two loop statement, which is for in and for op loop. Now this both the loops are used to iterate over objects and arrays, and actually in object you cannot iterate with a for op loop over the object, but you can iterate over arrays. Okay, and for in you can iterate over object and arrays both. So we'll talk about first syntax for creating a for in loop. So to create a for in loop, we have keyword for, is simplest version, which is the same as for loop, and then we have opening and closing curly braces, and in the middle of this we have keyword in, and then in the left side and we have right side. Then in the left side we have to put a variable name that will store the values. Okay, so let's call it as var. I will put it in a angle bracket, so you can change this variable name whenever you want. And inside this in the right side we have object or array variable name, so let it call as object. Okay, and then you are opening and closing curly braces, and we have code. This is simple syntax for in, and we have same syntax for off. We have variable, we have off keyword, and again we have variable, we again have code. This is the simple syntax. So we'll take a simple example, like we have const object. We'll create a simple object as a name. I'll call it as John. Salary as 3000. Now if I just do for in loop, so we'll create a variable called keys, because for in loop will iterate over the keys, not values. So we have got output as name and salary. Okay, so if I do key, now if I run this, we got name and salary. We did not see John and 300. If you want to do that, we can use of square brackets. So in JavaScript, if I want to access the values of a key, what we can do, we'll write object dot name, so we'll get the value like John here. We can also do that with a square bracket, like we have name, we'll got John. So here we can also do that, like we have key object, and we have pass key, we got name John 300. Okay, so this is simple difference, and we can do that with the same as array, like 2 3 4 5. and instead of object we'll write array. Now here array, we got the values. So here on the left side, keys in, if we use a for in loop, then we got the keys. So in for loop, we have indexes as in keys and value as an array of keys. Okay, if I just print console log and array, you can see we have an array which will like 0, then we have colon and value. Okay, in JavaScript, object array is also object, and the keys are its index positions, and the value is actual the value of array. And the last one we'll talk about is a for op loop, and for op only works on the array. Now if I run this, we got to see actual values, not the index position. Now if I run this, you can see we got 2 3 4 5 4 7 6, which is the value of the array. Now if I run against the object, will got an error that object is not iterable. You can also put this value, you can have any values of the array like string, like h c d. Okay, so we got the output as a scd. Okay, so I hope you understand the loop statement in JavaScript. If you want to learn more about the JavaScript or any concept, you can subscribe the channel, and you can also like this video. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.